So we are talking about Nakshi Kantha. Farzana, some of the things she had described yesterday, but the Kantha is only, uh, textile art which is not influence any um, other countries or other people or migration or anything. Only the things because uh, everybody knows about this. Uh, this is the one book, and there's a lot of international books and national books are published about the Kantha. This one, the one of the museum collections book, the name is Kantha, Recycle and Embroidered Textile of Bengal. That it is published from USA. So I will describe some of the pages from here because the photograph was very nice, and then all the authentic Kantha, it is absolutely very good conditions. In all over the Bangladesh, every district have a tradition to make this kind of quilt. The things is that why the everyone other things also all of you understand it is a woman's work. Only the family art, it is not institutional, but individual women's her perceptions and she have a knowledge from grandmother, grandmother sisters or mother and mother sisters. You know, in like Italians, so all the Bangladeshi are joint family. And then everyone, some son wedding, and then his wife is come, he's a new arrival in this, family. So then, first of all, she have to know any embroidery work or not. That is the quality of how, how much she is not as a physical appearance, she is a quality appearance in, mother side to education in cooking and education in something she can do. The needlework, embroidery work, the Kantha is the one of the best example all over the world. Why the people in museum, every museum in Paris, London, Europe, anywhere, all the museums, they have a dream to collect only 5 piece or 1 piece Nakshi Kantha from Bengal. So in Bangladesh side and then West Bengal, some of the side, both of the side are making a Nakshi Kantha. I will show the photograph first and then we can discuss. You see this is, you can see the border this is the border. So each and every Kantha has a border. We call it in Bengali, the sound is par, and then every Kantha has a ground stitch. The Kantha's ground stitch is very much important. If the crinkle have not come yet, then Kantha is absolutely unskilled, it is not a quality Kantha. And other things is the technique of border, which is based on 4 line, 3 line, 6 lines running stitch. It is a structure like a skeleton. After that, the needle and thread, it is goes according to the technique. It is called taga. That means 2 kind of border, which is traditionally that master craftsmen, they try to make a border, copy the long 6-yard sari border. And that time and today also, that lady is appreciated who make a copy, jacquard or dovey weaving design on border on the Kantha by hand with the thread. And previously they use old, that's why people call the Kantha is a recycle. But these days we are making new cloth and then make a kantha for the commercial purpose. Other things also is very important. You see the circle that is called, it looks like flower, but the two types of circle always in the kantha. It is like a musical notations. Without that, the kantha will be not has a. I mean, it's like you make a one curry, but you don't put the salt. It is like this. That there is called mushi and one is kodam. That is both of the things. Mushi is a kind of twist of, needlework. It is a line glows the, you see, this is the twist. Here, you see the twist. And it's very difficult if you not understand how to make it out, then you cannot go with this. And then there's the motif and then other things also they make it on the kantha. But surface ground, you see the surface, how the crinkle have to come on the surface, and then it's not very easy needlework. You need a lot of practice, and then to understand how to things must come, and this kind of things in kantha. That's why the kantha is so much important in the whole of the world. And other things I can share with you. That is more than 100 years or before than that, all the old kantha have maximum black, red, yellow, sometimes blue, not other color. Because that time they are not, all the master craftsmen, they are not using their thread from the market. They are always using their old woven sari border and then take it out, thread from the border, and that weaving design, weavers dictated the color. That color they're taking from the, old recycled sari. But these days, when we are involved with this, I'm just working, my first exhibition in Nakshi Kantha, it is in Shilpakala Academy, in our Pioneers Academy, National Academy. That is 1995. And then last exhibition I did, the 2 years project with the Aro. That is, I will show you some slides. That is in 2006. And it is very massive and big exhibition. And there we just try to explain what is the old kantha and what is the, take the inspiration from the old kantha, how the new product line for the lifestyle for today designer can make. Here you see the only black and red. This is some of the elephant and man, and this is the tree of life, and then some of the floral border. Every kantha have a floral border because they feel the nature is the one thing. It is always be vibrant in their memory, and then their surrounding every day, every moment by nature. And you know, Europe have a very, you have a weather also one important things, and then we don't have a like lamp or wool or something, but we have a only cotton. That's why layering one layer, two layer, three layer together, they make a blanket. Blanket is the English word. Then we making the name is Kantha. But Kantha, Nakshi Kantha, why Nakshi Kantha? Nakshi is a design. Ornamented, more ornamented Kantha quilt, that is called Nakshi Kantha. That name comes from one of our national poet, Kavi Joshimuddin. One of the poem, he described the one village girl's life, then the Nakshi Kantha, what he used. After that, all of us, everyone using that word, the Nakshi Kantha terminology. This is the another Kantha, which is like a wrapping paper. The whole the Kantha, no border, all the diamond shapes, and then surrounding the thin line, and then in the center, there's a solid work. And there is another Kantha. This one also, see, red and black, and there's a lot of motif with it, and there's a border, and then sharp leaf surrounding the central subject, and then border is side, and then another border end of the. There's a corner you can see. Bird is very common feature. Bird, fish, elephant, it's all a common feature. You see. This is another Kantha, is very interesting, this one. This is another all-over Kantha. It's all over. And then only one motif and then circle. It is a repeated total surface. This one you have to see very carefully because there's something I don't know. You can see that there's a dark. That's why you cannot see. There's a 5 circle. The 4 is corner, and then center of the 1 circle. The thing is that the Nakshi Kantha is magic of when you embroidered, then different tension comes all over the Kantha, and then that friction of tension to tension. Some of the places it comes out from the surface and then it is not equally plain. This Kantha is very, classic one that museum have. That 4 corner half circle, it comes like a half orange and then middle. It is very finest technique. These days nobody can make out this kind of work. And then all the crinkle of the surface, the Kantha has this is the essence of Kantha. In Europe, you have a tapestry art, and then the tapestry art is unique. Why? You can see, you feel it is a painting, like hand-painted painting or something, but it is a oven, and then interlacing so many color, motifs, forms, then textures, and then surface illuminations. It comes together. Then Kantha have a crinkle, without crinkle effect. No Kantha is not a classic Kantha. This is also, you can see some of the borders and then elephants, motifs. How the Kantha is developed like a classic art. It is a single person's perceptions. It's not a group work. Today, in the NGO, in Arong, I just work with, they have a 21,000 Nakshi Kantha artisans at present. And it is working. 1978, one American, she's working, Sister Mike, and she comes and then she worked with the Kantha. Another one, the Brack, have a very good friend, Mr. Abid, Sarabit. Her name is Marty Chain. They started in Jamalpur first in 1978. Is two people together and then first collected and then research. This exhibition is my project. At that time, I'm just consultancy, freelance consultant everywhere. Then Arong gave me a project for 2 years that is held in 2008 probably. And that exhibition design, research, and then contemporary product, everything it is done by me. I took the Arong Design Institute's team with me. That is one of the panel I make to understand. You see that the Bauhaus concept is the less is more. Here, when you see the Kantha, then which is less and which is more. Sometimes more also as a visual concept, and then think about the philosophy of the Kantha, and then think of the, aesthetics values of the Kantha. It is a very simplicity. You can talk about your life very simple way. The Kantha is very much communicative, and Nakshi Kantha have a lot of terminology with it. It is the circle which I talked about before. There is one Kadam, one is Mushri. There are the two patterns of the circles. Always in the Kantha, a lot of time we have seen, and where I show to the audience like this, the size is very much important factor. When it is like one penny size, then it is something else. And then when it is a 6 inches diameter, that is the same thing, same color, same mushri looks like different. So size, that's why the panel is, I made a panel in the exhibition for the audience like this. And here see that all the panels. This is the end portion of the exhibition. The new, that time 2008, the product for daily lifestyles is a niche market, and then how the Kantha embroidered with the origin, you can remain the Kantha motif, and then borders and everything remain same. Only the layout and then color combination is make a difference. And this is Nakshi Kantha for household. We collect the old, very much traditional old, we call it palank, but it's a bed, wood carving, very old. And then cushions, bedspread, curtain, everything is made by Kantha. This is one of the biggest selling item in Bangladesh. Nakshi Kantha sari, the 6-yard long and then silk, and the color combination and layout in the contemporary time consequence. Here you can see cushion covers, and then there is the living room, and in the wall there is the showcasing the wall frame. This is some of the outfit which is with the Kantha. This is the old Kantha replica. I just make some of the replica. You see the corner, there's the flower, the tree of life, and then all the 4 corners joined by the borders. That is the small borders, and then in between Taga also. And the center there's the lotus, the different form. There's the two things is two different style. The left one, there's the very old Kantha, and then that is called Nachghar. Philadelphia Museum, they have an original one. And then there's the other one also. We have a one master painter, we call our, he's a pioneer of our art college, Shilpacharya Janil Abidin. His collection, he just collected it, I think he started collecting the Kantha 1960. and then she have a very good collection. There's the two chariots, and then lot of girls. Center is the one lotus, and then both sides the two chariots, and then bars, and then the borders. So many things. It's very famous. And then this katha called Nachghar. Nachghar means dancing house. We just visited almost 64 districts, and then every district have a one katha, old katha, which some is contemporary, some is 20, 30, 50 years old. Then because I just make an exhibition like this, the people understand that every places have their own traditional style, that the individual personalities, they make a which is the diagram, which is the layout, what kind of taga border, what kind of design she should use. It is individual things. That is the new katha, the lower two. That is bathrobe also we tried with the Nakshi Kantha. You have seen the chest, wooden chest beside the curtain. When I start with around the Nakshi Kantha diversification, then I introduce two new color, but it is traditionally they don't use the red ground and then black ground. This is the red ground and then off-white and gray scale. The embroidery threads color, and then you see the cushions have a border. These are all traditional borders, and which is one thing I always in my exhibition and my project I am very much strict about this. Don't interact with the traditional motif and forms. You can create or edit the contemporary time context with the compositions and new product line, new color dimensions. But you see, we called it that this kind of borders and then motifs, it is the alphabets of Nakshi Kantha. And I think after sometimes, after my presentation, Saifur will explain the Jamdani. The Jamdani motif also is the alphabets of Jamdani design. But here design as well as the technique how to make this border. That there's both the things is very important in Kantha. Otherwise, Kantha character will be lost. This is the wall plate. The composition is different. Just in the centerpiece, always the Kantha have a centerpiece. I just take the half of the center lotus, and then on the top there's the tree of life, and then surrounding the sky there's a lot of Kantha traditional motifs. It is surrounded. It is a wall hanging. On the right side is the cushion covers, but I'm not interrupt any motifs or destroy any things differently. This is the new compositions. This cushion cover is very much famous in Bangladesh. It is called No Bihar. That means the Lord, and then with the women, they are just on the boat on the river. But this portion I just select from one of the old 150 years before this Kantha. All the motifs I collected. First the research work, the dissecting all the original one, and then collect all the alphabets like a motifs, and then analyze the motifs, which is flower, which is bird, how many types of bird, how many types of human figure, how many types of animals. It is like just to make a catalog. After that, making the composition to take a essence of old Kantha. This is all new product. This is below, different size. It is a irregular composition. So the border is left side, and then all the motifs is surrounding. This is all, this not very old, 60 years before that. Below 3. This is the replica from the old Kantha. We just wash the cloth. It is an anti silk fabric because it is a uh, I mean little color is you look this fabric is look like a very old, but the color remains that, and then I just destroy the uh, color of the thread because I try to make a replica as much as possible nearest to the original one. That's why the brightness of the embroidery thread, it is faded. I just burn it by sunlight and then washed very much differently. Then the thread, give it to drawing and thread and original old enlarged picture to the artisans, and then master artisans, they make the replica on this Katha for the exhibition. This is the contemporary outfit. It is also contemporary compositions. These are the new compositions. Just to make it round tablecloth also. This is the old one. I talked about this before. There's the exhibition display people. You see the first picture, then the ceiling. I just make the screen print of the Katha motifs and then hang it on the ceiling. Then the top first one, this photographs. The right side, the left side, I just make a one village hut on the exhibition sections, one of the sections, and then they're the real artisans. They are not act like artisans. They're the real artisans who just collect them from the villages, and then every day they're making their incomplete Katha. People talk with them. People to try to stitch themselves with them. It is like this, like a small workshop types. And then right side, all the taga. I mean, 300, more than 300 tagas we just documented with that exhibition for the public. Thank you very much.
My subject today is the heritage textile of Bangladesh. Yesterday I have mentioned that I will focus on this fabric today. So before describing about the Jamdani, I will talk about muslin. Muslin, Jamdani is one kind of muslin, which is also called figured muslin. So Jamdani is a magnificent piece of creation, a unique cultural heritage of Bangladesh that is linked with an ancient handloom tradition of bygone Bengal. Jamdani, a unique weaving heritage, has become the geographical indication of Bangladesh. So yesterday I have shown these two relics that these people of this part was very much has the expertise to cultivate cotton, to spin yarn, and then to weave extraordinary fabric, both coarse and also finer fabric. They also wear them and also export them. So the Arabians and the other people came here not only for the land, for the crops and other things, but also for the fabric. So yesterday I also shown these two pictures of mummies. Mummies also wrapped with linen, mostly says, but there are also some examples or literature there. I have found the mention of muslin. And this is the Indian Empire, or the political division of Indian Empire at that time, before 1947. And at that time, people were very much active in spinning. This is the spinning of the yarn. The same way, the lady and the gentleman. At that time, both Hindus and Muslims were participating, or they were in this same profession. So they are doing the work. They are weaving the fabric here. Yesterday, I also shown these three pictures. The This one is Lady Antoinette of France, the royal lady. She was very much fond of muslin, and these two are still in the Victoria and Albert Museum. If you can go there, you can see in their collection. So these are the old Jamdanis, and yesterday I also explained about the paisleys. This is distinctive design of the Jamdani, and you can also find these motif particularly in different places of the world, but especially in the Iranian carpet. The cotton plant by R.B. Hadi, it is a report, US Department of Agriculture. He reported in 1896 about the cotton produced in Bengal. And this is the Dhaka area, the greater Dhaka area at that time, the demography of this area, and a place called Kapashia. It is in the district of, now it is in the district of Gazipur, just adjacent to Dhaka. There is a, they used to produce the cotton, especially for the muslin. This is called Carpus Josephium herbaceum. Josephium herbaceum. This is a special kind of cotton which was produced in that area, but that is no longer. So the government of Bangladesh is trying, and they have found one species, and they are now cultivating that particular type of carpus. So after the partition in 1947, Jamdani became ours because we are 1947. We were in Pakistan. We are in East Pakistan. But after 1971, when Bangladesh has become independent and Jamdani has become ours, our tradition, our pride, everything. But this is the way of weaving Jamdani because they do the motifs indifferently, not during the weaving, but they do it with their hand. I have to mention one thing: the spinners were especially women in that time. Now they use only basically the mill-made yarn, but at that time they spun yarn, and only women were able to spin the yarn, and their age was 14 to 30. After 30 years, they could have been spun only for 15 years, not more than that, because of the decreasing their eyesight. It was so tough because that time they just spun yarn not only 200 count, 300 count, 400 count, and up to 600 count. And recently, it is a very good information for us that the weaving board in Bangladesh is a department of the textile ministry. So they have become successful to spin 400 count, 454 counts of yarn, and they have also weaved a piece of muslin recently, but yet to be they are just waiting for this corona time is over, and they will just publish it to the media. Now, this is the partition of Bengal. This part is West Bengal, and this part is East Bengal, and this is Dhaka, and nearby the another district called Nayanganj, and the three we call upojelas. The three I have shown yesterday, and I will also show you today. The areas where basically the weavers are there, situated are there, but the books I want to mention: the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea, the Wilfred H. Scoff. You can find the mention of Jamdani and mention the muslin in that book. Also, the Claudius Ptolemy, the geography, you can also find the mention. Of course, the Huyen-san, the Chinese traveler, mentioned in his travelogue about the muslin. And the Mughals were very fond of muslin. They are the patrons of muslin. And the fourth ruler of Mughal emperor is Jahangir. He was fond of muslin, and he actually brought the Persian weaver to Bangladesh, to this part of Bengal, and he patronized this fabric, and then Jamdani was born actually. And these clothes are so transparent. These are all women of the Mughal court, or the Mughal ladies, or the empresses. They wear Jamdanis, the muslins, and later on the Jamdanis. So this is one of the Nawabs, the Alibardi Khan, who came to Bengal and who took a piece of Jamdani, which were presented in a coconut shell to a Mughal emperor. And you also find the mention of the Jean Baptiste Tavernier, the renowned French diamond merchant and traveler. He was, I just forgot, I just mentioned the wrong name. It's Muhammad Ali Beg, not the Alibardi Khan, the Muhammad Ali Beg, the ambassador of Persia. So, who on return home after his tour of India took 60 cubic muslin packages in a coconut shell inlaid in gold and silver and precious stone. It was so fine that one would scarcely known that he had in his hand. So you can easily understand this finesse. That's why Eastern Bengal muslin was naturally known as textile breeze, running water, or evening dew. And they were made long before the Aryan invasion. So which I have shown before. So there was a great exhibition in London in 1851. Their muslin was shown or exhibited in that particular exhibition, the Great Exhibition, which was the Queen Victoria, Charles Darwin, George Eliot, and Lewis Carroll were also visited the exhibition, the Great Exhibition of London in 1851. The muslin has a different name and different kind. There were more than 30 type of muslin, and here I have mentioned only 15. And another is Jamdani. Jamdani is also called the design muslin. The one of the best Jamdani is Malbuz Khas. Another is the Jhuna, and also Abe Rawa. The different type of names according to their quality. The English ladies or European ladies are very fond of muslin, because muslin was especially for their wedding dress or made out of muslin, and the embroidery was made in Bangladesh, which is called chicken curry. Yesterday, Farzana Yusuf mentioned about the chicken curry, and Jamdani. I yesterday told that Jamdani is a plain cloth. So for this muslin was a plain cloth, and for muslin industry there were different type of professional people or in Bangladesh. One was for people who had the who work for mending the muslin, because after the wash the yarn may unsettle. So to settle down the muslin threads or the yarn, the menders used to work that. And also there are named katakar. They also does the another work. There was a laundry people. So many professional people were there. One thing should mention, there is a place called Tezgao in Dhaka. The Dhaka student can, everybody knows that. Everybody know the place Tezgao. There was a factory, laundry factory to wash Jamdani. And yesterday I mentioned the river Shitolokha for the pH level of the water was very much important for the wash of Jamdani or muslin. So the Shitolokha is, the water of Shitolokha is not like that it was before. This was the British seal was given. And at that time, I just mentioned one thing, that even in muslin and also the Jamdani, during the local people, the local, the middlemen or the buyers, they just take the designs from the weavers, and they just sent to the British people, and then they sent to England, and they approved that, and that comes return back to Dhaka again, and it took 2 years, and all our design student can easily relate it to the system of RMG, the merchandise, what merchandiser does and what buyers does, and how designs comes to Bangladesh, and how samples are made and then returned to the buyer, and then they approve it, and then they go to the production. The same way, from now, from 100 and 200 years back, they did the same process to purchase Jamdani and muslin and took them to or exported to Europe. Jamdani is really a truly poetry of threads. We call it a poetry of threads, and the weavers are really the artists of this sort of weaving. These are the intricate work. This is called the all over work. This is an old piece of Jamdani. I have given few links to the student. It will help them to see about the Jamdani exhibition we have organized last year in September and October. So this is the fourth ruler, this Jahangir, who brought the Persian weavers to Bangladesh. And before telling that, I must say the meaning of Jamdani. Jam means wine, and dani or dan is called. It means the pot. The pot carries wine, that the wine pot, or maybe you can say the goblet. So is meaning of Jamdani. But another meaning also, the jama. The Jamdani is also Persian word, the Farsi word, and jama is cloth. It is also a Persian word, and dana is who makes it. That is Jamdani. There are two type of meaning. One is Jamdani is a wine pot. Another is a cloth or piece of cloth, or is a. So this is a cloth. This is a dress. It's called angrakha, worn by the Mughal emperors. And at that time, Jamdani was not a sari. At that time, Jamdani was a yardage material, and they made their dress out of the Jamdani yardage material. So this is it doesn't exist anymore, but it is possible to do that even today. So this is the way Jamdani is weaved. This is the wharf, and this is the weft, and they do their motif in by their hand. The different type of this thread, which is a little thicker than this thread. Actually, opacity of the pattern woven into the transparent base mesh together during the woven process. That's why you can see the designs. This is an old piece of Jamdani. It is at least more than 100 years. And Jamdani at that time was basically the base color, the raw color, the yarn color, and also there was the natural dye. Basically, indigos were there, so people were used to dye with natural natural element. Indigo was one of them. But later on, the two colors came. One is red and one is black. It is a modern time, the photography, but I just want to mention the colors. There is two color, red and black, on the white surface. So the two colors were experimented by this Nawab of the Dhaka. He is called Sir Nawab Salimullah. He was fond of textile. He was very enthusiastic about Jamdani. So he tried different layouts of Jamdani, and he experimented with two colors, red and black, at the first time rather than the indigo. And I must mention her name. She is Ruby Ghaznavi. She is the lady who revived the natural dye in Bangladesh in the early 80s, and Aranyo was his brainchild, and he has with this organization for 40 years, and then she handed over to Bengal Foundation. So he also revived the natural dye Jamdani. He tried to dye yarn and then give it to the weavers, and they weaved Jamdani for her. And now many organizations taking this same initiative for the natural dye Jamdani. Once Jamdani was weaved with the cotton yarn, which was actually khadi because that was hand spun. But later on, they are using, and still they are using the mill yarn produced in the mill, the textile factory, the spinning mills. But at once it was used the actual golden and silver threads to do the designs. Now, this is a Jamdani weaver who weaved this Jamdani with natural blue dye, dyed yarn, and this guy was awarded by the World Crafts Council in 2008. He was become the best textile weaving. He was awarded for that that category. And these are all the names of the designs. And yesterday I mentioned that we have collected 200 original motifs of Jamdani. A few are here. See, this is Jhumka Fool, this is Ameti Fool. All the names are really colloquial because the weavers, they see, they look around their surroundings. So they just take the words from there and they just implement the designs into their weaving, into their designs or in the layout of the Jamdani. So the three places I have earlier mentioned, the under the district of Narayanganj. Narayanganj is a big district beside Dhaka, adjacent to Dhaka. So there are three places. One is called Rupganj, one is called Siddhirganj, one is called Sonargaon. These particularly three places are famous for Jamdani. But once during the Mughal period, there was a factory in old Dhaka. There were two or three factories run by the Mughal emperors in the old Dhaka. One of them was belonged to the Emperor Dara Shikoh, who was the son of Jahangir and brother of Aurangzeb. So I intentionally put this picture here. You are seeing a little boy, age of 10 to 12. He is doing this. So Jamdani is a special kind of weaving technique. This guy is called Ustad, the master craftsperson or the master weaver. This guy is called Shagrid. Shagrid is the disciple. So Jamdani is still not, there was no no designs are given to them. It is actually the oral tradition. So he is telling what he is weaving, and at the same thing he is just replicating from the other side. So you can say or you can accuse about the child labor. You can see the Western classicals or the Indian classical musics. There are students who start at the age of 5, 6, 7. So it is also a classical tradition, classical weaving tradition. So if you cannot start at the age of 10 or 12, you cannot memorize or learn all these things or all the technique of weaving. So that it is very important to start at the early ages. Now you are seeing that lady is weaving. In Jamdani, interestingly, the Jamdani weavers are all Muslims. And in case of Tangail weavers, they were all Hindus. Now there were Muslim weavers in Tangail weaving. But in Jamdani, they are all the weavers, all related to all the processes. They all are Muslims. I don't know what the factor is, but the inclusion of women as weaver came very later, maybe 15 to 20 years, not more than that. Now they are weaving, and recently the women have become master weavers. Now I will talk about the loom. This is one of the very primitive loom. As I have told about the waist loom or backstrap loom, it is a very primitive loom, and this loom is very primitive loom. It is called pit loom. You are seeing their pit here, and their legs are in the pit, and there is two bamboo stick. They control the loom with their leg and these bamboo sticks, and the loom are made of only few things, only few articles. They are made of wood and also this bamboo, and these woods are basically palm wood. This is an exhibition held in 2007 or 8. It was curated by Mr. CHANDRA SHEKHAR SHAHA, and the exhibition was organized by Arong. So there are saris, and they replicated few saris which were 100 and 150 years of old. And this is typical selling point. We call it heart. There are 2-3 hearts. They runs from very early in the morning to the day, up to the day. They start at 12 o'clock at night, and they finish by 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. So these are the pictures of Hat or the sari bazaar. So people are taking their saris, bring their saris here to sell, and people all over Bangladesh come to buy these saris. This is a special kind of sari made of silk. I forgot to mention one thing, that I shown that Nawab of Dhaka, he experimented with silk and cotton Jamdani. So that was called half silk Jamdani. Still there are also half silk Jamdani. This sari took 6 months to weave, and he is the weaver. So there is the shop, a shop in Dhaka. So ladies come, ladies adore Jamdani. Every lady in Bangladesh, every women in Bangladesh like to have a Jamdani in their wardrobe. So I have shown this picture before, and now it can be done, and it is a very modern tops. And this is also Jamdani motifs are here. So it is made 2 or 3 years back. So still they are doing this sort of yardage material. You can see the Jamdanis in the fashion show, fashion ramp. This is the Jamdani with different color variations and modern layout. So before coming here, this is the book, the reference books, the name of the reference books, and I have took the information. And I have a long story which I will share with Professor Heike, and she will share with you, of course. And I can also share this PowerPoint for you. And one thing to mention, that the National Crafts Council of Bangladesh last year organized an exhibition. 4 videos I have given to Professor, so she will share with you. So I just want to mention about the exhibition. We have collected 500 pictures from all over the world. The museum who are still having the old Jamdanis of 300 years or 200 years, that Jamdanis are from 50 years to 250 years. So from the span of 50 to 250 years, we have collected all these motifs from the New York Museum, or the museum from Victorian Albert Museum, and also from India and any other places. So we have replicated 60 designs of Jamdani. We have made saris and also yardage materials with 200 count of handmade hand spun yarn, and which were both from warp and website, not one side. So it was very difficult to weave. So one saris took at least 2 to 3 months to weave. And we have exhibited, I think many of our Bangladeshi students visited, maybe they visited the Bengal Gallery last year, September, October. There were a month-long exhibition over there. So the 4 videos I have shared, I think it will help you to see what the Jamdani is. And this is our pride, that we have at least contributed to revive Jamdani here, and we have the National Crafts Council and Bengal Foundation jointly organized this exhibition and also the seminar and etc. That was the uh, part of Jamdani Festival, and we took 2 years to organize all these things. So it was a recreation of Jamdanis. So these all about my presentation. So you can have all the list here, list of books. So you can collect this, and if you need any information, you can just contact me. Professor has my email ID, and I think a few may know me in Dhaka, Dhaka students. So you can contact me about Jamdani or anything textile of Bangladesh. So I can, or Bangladeshi craft, I can, whatever I know, so I can help you to for your study, for your research and anything. Thank you so very much.
And if you like, you can say something as well if you like.
Yeah, this is the shop of the yarn shop. Preparing the work, and this is making the reed, and only women's does that. So they are preparing a starch made of flat rice. You can see the transparency of the fabric. They starch after every 10 inches. In case of Benarashi, they use the shuttle made of the buffalo horn. Buffalo horn is solid and the cow horn is hollow. So I think you are having one. It is one thing to mention. They use buffalo horn to make the shuttle for the Benarashi weaving.
So I've worked with Indigo for 6-7 years with these dyers. So that's what I'm going to explain and tell you. And of course, the marketing part, the quality part, that was more something that was more in my hand than the farming or the dyeing part, because that is done by the experts. So that's what they made, and that's what I did, was ensuring the quality and selling it. So it's from the farm to the dye to high quality to the market. Indigo, we touched a bit about it yesterday. So indigo was there, it got lost, and then we found it back. So I mentioned about, like, there was a revolt, it needs to be mentioned, like 1876, for 100 years, the production went on all over Bengal, many parts of Bangladesh, West Bengal, Bihar. So what happened was that the British, what they did, indigo was like a commodity. So it was turned into currency when it was shipped to England. And they used to do, and because there was no chemical indigo back then, so they the British took over the economy of indigo, natural indigo, from the French after it died down in Santo Domingo in the Caribbean for the French. And the French later tried to revive it in Western Africa, but they could not match the quality. It did not happen for them. So the British used to rule the world of natural dyes. And so they used to plant it every season, every year for 100 years. So what happened was that the soil lost its fertility. And the thing is, indigo, we grew up, I mean, others from Bangladesh will also vie for it, say, people who grew up in Bangladesh, we grew up listening and hearing that indigo is bad for the soil. It was like a taboo. It coincided with the British or the colonial torture upon subcontinent and Bengal. But then with my work and speaking to many people, the farmers, I got to know it's actually not that it is bad for the soil. It's only bad for the soil if you do it for 100 years, every season, every year. Then the soil loses certain character. It does not get replenished on some of the minerals that it's supposed to get. So, and moreover that, the farmers were not paid, of course. Well, they lived in dangerous conditions, and it was a very labor-intensive process. So what happened was that they revolted finally around 1859-60, and it's a violent revolt. And people stopped. People protested against the way indigo was done, and they were losing out on food because there was not enough food production. So it's all meant that indigo was gone very soon afterwards. And in 1890s and in 1882, I think a Bayer, a German company, you will all know it, producing pesticides. So they first produced the natural chemical indigo, and that's how natural indigo died in very soon afterwards, and chemical indigo took over the world. So Ruby Ghaznavi in the 80s revived it in Bangladesh. We spoke about it yesterday. And there was an organization called MCC, and then Care Bangladesh. They did a widespread production in the 2000s. Now MCC is gone; they don't do it anymore. And the Care and Living Group is the only one doing it in some scale now. In a large scale, a significant scale. There's a production. I mean, the ability is to produce about a ton every season. So first batch was released in 2006, and currently Living Group can employ up 3,000 farmers during the season. And in 18, we exported 1,000 kilos to a single buyer, making it the biggest sale of indigo, Bengal indigo, in over 150 years. And we were very, very proud of the fact that we could break that glass ceiling, and people would get to know about it, and people will be more in Bangladesh more respectful of this crop and this thing. So I'll get into more about the goodness of indigo as I progress this slide. The farmers, where's the memory? This was surprising. The farmers did not know about they did not know about the existence. I mean, they did not know about the taboo much. It was not really carried, and they did not realize that this thing that they produced was indigo. So let me explain. So after indigo was stopped, after the revolt 150 years back, it's not that the crop was gone, the crop stayed, but the dye was gone. So the crop stayed because it's good for the soil. It's a nitrogen fixer. It gives the organic fertilization, and the farmers would do it between crops as a buffer crop and to replenish the soil, because northern Bangladesh and Bangladesh generally is very fertile. So no land actually is left unused. So but sometimes of course, you need to ensure that it retains its fertility. So that's why indigo is one of the plant that is used to retain. So it's a great crop actually. And so when care started, independent of what MCC did, these farmers in this part of the country, northern Bangladesh, they did not know the plant they do is indigo. They call it some other name. They call it as mal gach. Mal, I can say, is like a goods, something like a goods plant, something that has multiple use. So that's how they came to know, okay, so this is the same plant of 150 years, but they did not have a clue. So Living Blue, with care support, we started this and we extracted indigo, and that's how we continued producing it until now and we go on. So in every slide from here until few slides, you will see these two pictures and there will be steps. So this one is the homegrown. So there are 3-4 kinds of species in the world. So our one grown in Bangladesh and subcontinental India, more in the tropics, it's called Indigo ferratinctoria. So the seeds, we used to buy them from the market, which used to come from India. But then later on, in the last few years, what we did, we worked with local farmers and tried to produce it ourselves with them. So to make it self-sufficient and of course the quality to improve and have more control over the quality. So these are it's planted in after the early rain, around late February, March, after the winter is gone and the first rains have come and the soil is moist, and then you sow the seeds. By June, they grow to a certain height. They have a certain color of the leaves, and that's when you know, when our farmers would know by looking at them, that it's time to extract it, time to cut it. So unlike tea leaves are like plucked, and this is not plucked, this is cut almost from the bottom, keeping a few inches from the bottom, and then you cut with the steps. And then together, you see this part is a tank and collected in the early morning. Ideally, it should be collected before sunset. But I think that's what the British could do, but we cannot really sometimes force our people to wake up in 3 or 4 in the morning and then collect it and reach this place by 6. It's not always possible, but we try to do it as much as possible to keep the quality higher. The thing is, you need to cut it before the sun really rises hard, and because these leaves are very sensitive plants. I mean, these are very sensitive. If they start when the sun starts when the sun heats up, and if you are still cutting them and put them under the sun, they would lose its indigo-tin content. Inside these leaves, there is a pigment called indigo-tin. That's what we extract. And then these, after collected, they are put in this tank for 12-14 hours, and these are soaked. And underneath it, after those 12-15 hours, there is a sludge, like a green mud. So that's what happens. And we take off those leaves out. You take it out them after 14 hours, and these are sent back to the farmers' community. They dry it and they use it as a firewood. So it's never dying until it is used to its maximum point. So that's why it's called a good crop. It has multiple use. After the extraction in step 3, the sludge is taken to this tank, and that's where it's kept for 7, 8, sometimes 8, 9 hours. And these are the showers. So this liquid is run through these showers to air it. That means we need to oxidize it. That's when this green sludge slowly turns into indigo. The indigo comes out, and it's like a pool, and there are exit points at the bottom of this tank, and the top layer becomes like a light water, and at the bottom there is a sludge. There is a slurry. We call it a slurry. So the thick precipitant of the indigo. The precipitated slurry is collected at the bottom, then it is boiled, then it is strained, and then after boiling and straining of this slurry at the bottom, you get the 4th step, that is this gooey, jelly-like result of the indigo. So the slurry becomes this jelly-like after a certain process of boiling and straining. Then it is sun-dried on large plates, and June, July, August, extremely it's rainy season in Bangladesh, and northern Bangladesh gets a lot of rain. So it sometimes gets hard for us to sun dry it, but that's life. That's how we do it. So it's like a rush sometimes when rain is coming, we wait until the last moment to cover them up or take them away, and then when the rain is gone, sun is again out, we take it out. So it depends from the leaf to this dry position on the right, which is gets after it's sun dried. It can take about 3 days if there is a lot of sun. If there is not a lot of sun, if it's interrupted with rain, it can take up to 6, 7, 8 days even. Because sometimes we get rain for non-stop for 3 days. Yeah, so this is the sun dried on the right side. Looks really pretty. It's like a chalk. And but you can that's the part until step 6, that from the seeds to the growing part to collection to this putting them in the tank, the sludge, and all this collection, and then drying them up to get the indigo. So we export in this form or in this form. So we powder it, and then this is the end of one process. So this from A, the process starts making of a vat. So indigo gets fermented now using a reducing agent. So you need to know there are quite a few ways of making a vat. There is organic way and there is inorganic way. So I have a recipe later which is organic. I'm not going to talk to you about inorganic, because if you start doing something now as a dyer, start organic one. Then you can get the expertise on the organic vat, because it gets difficult if you are becoming an expert with using chemical for reducing agents and all this. Then it's hard for you to transform to organic one, because it's harder to have an organic vat. But start now, you will get it. So what happens with this powder? You put reducing agent, which could be fructose, or like say banana. There's a process I will explain. So then you put that with this powder indigo, keep it for a few weeks, or sometimes it can be short as well. And then this paste happens. After this paste is done, we have a formula with water. Then you put a base, which is a lime, and then you make the vat. So the top you see here, there are blue bubbles, right? But inside, after the first layer of bubbles, you see the water looks green, like a mud, right? So this is a perfect look of an indigo vat. This is a perfect indigo vat. And ideally, it should have a pH of 9 to 12. If it doesn't look like this, you have a problem with the vat. So you put in the fabrics. You look on the right side, on step 9, she's putting the fabric in. Like it was a regular white fabric, you need to scour it, and then you need to get rid of all the elements on it, wash it very well, and then put it in the water, soak it absolutely so that every fiber gets the water and gets wet. And then you put it in the vat, try it out for 10-15 minutes, drying it, and then you take out, and then you need to wave and flap. So I have this process of the dyeing, how meticulously it is done. At the last, we will show about 3 short videos. You need to dip the scoured and wet fabric, constantly move it so that the dye gets every space. This is very important, so that it does not make it as uniform looking as possible, because you don't have the chemical in hand that makes sure that a fabric looks the same, right? And in indigo, in natural dyeing, it is not supposed to always look the same. That's fine, but you need to make it as best as you can. So you need to really move it and show it, and so that in every part the indigo is getting into. Then wave it and flap in the open air to oxidize the fabric from green to indigo. That's how the change becomes. This used to look greenish. The bluish part would be looking greenish after you take out of the fabric immediately, and then you take off the fabric, you start flapping it in the air. You will see in your own eyes how green becomes indigo. It's amazing. So wash out with vinegar. I mean, this you can do or you cannot do, may not do. Vinegar is not necessary, because you will read researches that it doesn't really prove that vinegar actually helps a lot of washing off, but something that you can do in addition form. It's best to wash off as much as you can with water, because indigo, extra indigo clings to the fabric. And as I said yesterday, indigo doesn't get inside the fiber. It creates a coating on it. So you need to clear off the extra dyes that is hanging on the fabric. And it's only possible with enough drying. And then dry preferably in shade, because and then how you get sustainably grown natural Bengal dye. So this is dyed with the best of the dyes by the very fine dyers. This is an organic vat. It's found on the, I've used something that is public, which is easy to start, and many people use this formula. That's why I've put it up here. It's by Maiwa. Maiwa is a great organization, company from British Columbia, Canada, headed by Charlotte Swan family. And so they do great work. And of course, they have a lot of work in India. They buy Living Blues Indigo, they buy our stuff, and they sell to many people. So, and they do a lot of research, and they teach about fats, how to make a vat, and experts in the indigo especially. So this is a formula, and they have done with banana, overripe banana. And there's a full formula here. So I'm not going to get details into it. You can have a look and try to follow it. But important is to scour the fabric before, or the yarn, to maintain the pH, to follow this exact measurements, and that's how you start your first vats. You see on the left, the white fabric, and after she took out of the vat, it is greenish, and then it will become blue. Getting into the inside of indigo. Maintain a pH of 9 to 12. 9 to 10 is ideally for silk and wool, 11 to 12 for cotton and linen. After every day's work, stir a bit, cover it up. Next morning, stir again. Always gently, slowly, just rotate it with a stick. You need to have we use a bamboo stick. Make sure the vat is warm or in regular room temperature. Low temperature vats are not good. I told this before, like winter, even our winter is bad for the vats. You always need to take care of the vat, feed it with necessarily with base or fermented indigo base, like you would take care of your loving pet. It's very important to understand that indigo vat is alive, it's living. So, it may not be speaking to you, but it does actually. If you want to hear it, you will listen to it. So in a way that you need to take care of it. And if you don't take care of it, it will die. No two dips are the same, as I said. And these things I say because you need to understand the uniformity part. It's not always possible because we are so used to seeing regular industrial dyed fabrics that if you see irregularities, you may think it's not right, but it's not always the same with natural dyes. So no two dips are the same, no two vats are the same for indigo. Indigo is a cold vat, meaning it's not, you don't boil the dye. So you make a dye, a cold one, and keep it for months. Sometimes many people does for years. What happens is that, with how long can a vat last? You will know with its sludge or the waste that it's stacked at the bottom. If it is going really high and your quality is decreasing the fabric, then you will know probably you need to change because more of the waste is coming up. Dye results can be always different depending on the season of the species and your preparation. Indigo especially, and all dyes may bleed. You need to remember it. But if you watch off well, with experience, with practice, you will know, okay, you can have a better result every time. Excessive bleeding is bad to wash off. Indigo never get inside the thread. I said, these points I said yesterday, so not going into much of detail, but practice and practice and practice to discover the nuances and develop your own secret. So people, you can go to a dyer, you can see how they do it, but you need to come back to your own studio space in your own vat and find out more about it. Importance of high quality. Okay, now starts my part. So this is what I always ensure working with the dyers, the artisans. something when you do for your own self, like you make something once a year, you take a real great care of it, right? But when you do something or make people do or work with them to produce things commercially, not necessarily like in the garment sector, you have very short delivery period time, like 1 or 2 days can be decisive. In our case, it's not exactly the same because the time is more, and we do have that flexibility of working with those kind of buyers that they understand this can be slow. I mean, if I say 7 weeks, it may take 8 weeks, which is fine, but we cannot make it like 50 weeks, like say 20 weeks, right? Or 15 weeks. We cannot double it. So with working in limitations like that, but giving the artisan enough time so that they are not compromised with their quality. But they also understand that if you have to run a company, if you have to pay them and work it out, there is a limitation. But never compromise on quality and follow the mantra merciless. I mean, this is what I'll say now is what I have tried to practice, not maybe every time with fully 100%, but we really tried in Living Good to do it. So never compromise on quality. So you need to understand, like on the left, the reason I chose this picture, you will see the threads. You see the one, they come like evenly, right? The two threads, the lines, what do you call it? The rows, the columns. I would say that each column are side by side. These threads are side by side. This is a particular form. It's called even, like we call it Torshellite. If it was missing one step or the other, it would be even, or it would be odd, bejour. Both are fine. But in the same fabric, you can't have two. You need to have one of it. You need to choose what you are doing on one fabric. If you're doing two, then it's a wrong thing. So this type of little things are very important. Finding out skilled craftsmen and artisans is not easy. You need to like network. This is a great platform. We are here, but you will keep developing. But it is a waste of time if you really can't work with skilled craftsmen. When you're working with natural dyes, handmade goods, by default, the good becomes out of the ordinary. We need to get it right in our head. Like you're working with something that is slow, something that is produced with meticulous precision, the indigo. This stitching, so much of time and precision goes behind them. So it's not an ordinary fabric. So this becomes extraordinary, and it has to be of high quality. So you cannot make a mistake. Like after all this time, you cannot do two kinds of stitching on the same fabric, right? So every step, every detail must be meticulously monitored. I mean, this is something, it will not happen now maybe, but keep it in mind. It will help you as you develop, keep growing your own labels. Importance of high quality. Why? Okay. So while remembering handmade imperfections are its beauty, bad grammar is not beautiful either. So that's what I mentioned going back to this picture. If you have odd and even on the same fabric, that's a bad grammar. It's futile to compare quality of and price of mass-produced goods to ones made by hand. Believe in it and educate your customers. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised when you will see people are comparing. They do. You have primer, you have kick, and people are used to them. And educating that kind of people with natural dyed fabric, which cost higher. It can be tough, but it's possible. Anything that is done slow can never be cheap, but can be affordable. It's possible. It's possible to make them affordable. But I mean, if you compare again with a $10 Primark T-shirt and a $40 natural dyed shirt, I mean, that's not going to work. But I would call it affordable. But if someone is not looking beyond $10, then that person is not working for that person. I would say is not actually looking for what you're making. Make your design natural dyed handmade pieces, contemporary classics. It is of course your choice what design you're going to do. But this thing's really it's a good thing. I mean, not making it too trendy because it's not nice that you work with natural dyes, but you make it too trendy and you need to change every 3 months everything. You can't do that actually. So something that is classical, people will always like it, like a timeless, but it has a contemporary feel. And it is always in fashion, always there. Marketing your label. So again, going back what we try to do. So your strength is in your design and quality of good. Once you value your creative work with a price, know your customers. That is product first, then customer. Other way around, then you're compromised. As Sheikh was mentioning about quilting, right? Quilting has a certain grammar, as he said, we are talking about it. If there is no wave in the quilt work, it's not actually a quilt. It's a fabric with stitches randomly done here and there, but you cannot sell it as a quilt. So if you make a product like that and want to sell, that's your compromising on price, on quality, on everything, and that's your choice. But if you want to try make something really good with perfection and the grammar right, then the product will actually come first. And then you need to look for those kind of customers. So target and market to fashionable and conscious customers. People who are fearful of fashion and think fashion is futile, not your customers. I mean, I don't know how you would judge this line, but I really think it's important when you are a fashion designer. If you were not a fashion designer, if you were something else and you don't care about fashion, it's perfectly fine. And I don't judge people who are not fashion conscious. You don't need to be fashion conscious. It's absolutely not necessary. But for us who are selling something nice, something making it a fashionable good and trying to sell it as at a value, then you need to find people who value it, who sees the work behind the fashion. It's not the glitzy part of fashion, not the salon shows that people are running. That's what actually people are trying to judge over with. But they don't actually see the work that goes behind it, the hard work, the artisans, the skills, the few hundred years of heritage behind a single fabric. They don't look at it that way. So it's important that you target people who understands it. You make that people. You tell them about it. You go to shows, talk about it. People will know. Some people really would understand it. Knowing which shows to go to can be the tedious part. Research on the shows you could go to. I will tell a few shows that we went to. Okay, being sustainable is being responsible. I know sustainability is big in Germany. It's very big because you have like Primarks and Kicks, and people are trying to question them, which is amazing that revolution is going on now. But what I don't always see is the fascination for design or workmanship. I mean, this would actually sell the good. Sustainability is being responsible. That's like basic. You have to be that now, even more after the current crisis we are in, right? But your good has to be beautiful. It has to have a very nice pattern to it, and the workmanship has to be good. That actually is decisive. If it's a bad made product but sustainably done, you can sell few, but you cannot sell a lot. This is a basic thing. Have a logo, website, post on Instagram. So this will reflect your aesthetics. So knowing what you're doing here is important. If you're a designer, I mean, the passion has to be there. Your mind has to be there. It has to reflect, and people will know that as a great designer, your taste, what is like, and you will build your own customer base like that. Have a dream, follow, be passionate and patient. Opportunity in trying time. We are in a difficult time, right? And so most of us are home. So and we actually don't know when things will be back to really normal, or even it's gonna be really normal like before. So do a lot of your own homework, sketches, drawings, try out better. It's a great time for that. Use it to virtual showcasing of your creative work. You can create a platform. You keep showing people. You are thinking of it all now. Everyone is thinking the same way. Everyone, next 2 years could be slow, and people may not buy a lot of goods. So try out on timeless basics. That's my 2 cents. You can have your own ideas, but you can use inexpensive things like cotton and linen based on that, but good quality ones. Try things out. We will have better days in a couple of years, so it's a great opportunity to prepare for that. And masks, again, something of that's what I think. I see a lot of people trying to make masks, which is fantastic. You're home, you're trying to help people out, but there's a risk because it has a certain quality standard. It has to really stop those viruses, and there's a certain fabric kind required. We know that like surgical masks and all these. So a regular cotton mask could attract dust. I mean, that's what I think. So it may not be a great idea, but you do what you want to do. This I include, I think few of you may know of Natasha. So like I mean, my experience with the local international goes back 5 years. So in first time in 2015, they contacted, they came to Rangpur with a very big group, nice people, and they spent a whole day. So it's unfortunate that you can't spend that day. So they spent the whole day, they worked with us, they died, and they went back all smiling. And then what happened later was I was following some of their work, and I kind of personally liked what Natasha was doing. She was putting things out. It looked good. And from something from Living Blue, we always try to do was work with designers from different parts of the world to collaborate. And we keep on collaborating. This is very important. And so Natasha was there and we made a collection. She designed, she sent us the patterns. We did this from all the Bangladeshi fabrics that we work with. We dyed them with her patterns. We worked with a local maker and made the garments here, the most difficult part. And we sent it back to her. And I was there in the showroom, in Green Showroom, in Salon Show, and together we presented it to this group. It was nice. Yeah, possibilities are endless. So when we started, I mean, you guys are designers, right? So you have some, of course, a very good basic knowledge of things. When I worked with Living Blue, I mean, I studied economics, so I don't have any clue of fashion or makings or designs. I do not study them. But I worked with craftsmen for 10 years. So it was a fascination of seeing people able to make beautiful things. You know, that's what fascinated me. And I think that's also important to have, is that to appreciate talented people. That's what I think I have. So I really like people who can do great things I cannot. And then it really got me into, and I studied things and tried to develop my own taste and aesthetics regarding these things, and trying to figure out where I can put such a beautiful stuff that our artisans make into that I will get good right prices. They will can go really great heights, not just stay within our country. Because Bangladesh is an amazing place, but we are not a rich country, so we don't have a big market for goods like this. That takes time, and that has a higher value than usual. So you need to go out. You need to find out more people. So that's what we did. We did a lot of research. We worked with a lot of designers. Every opportunity that I thought was necessary, and went to places we went to shows in the US, like Folk Art Market, that's in Santa Fe, New Mexico, amazing place. Great appreciation for quilts. Americans love quilts. They understand quilt. So does the Japanese people. They understand the quilt work in their cultures. In France and Europe, largely, they really appreciate high workmanship, dyeing, this precision, symmetric. That's what Europe looks at. So trying to figure the differences. Japan likes monochromes. USA likes bright colors. Europe likes different. I mean, Northern Europe likes more monochromatic. Southern Europe more open to colors. So more open to different fashionable designs. So trying to figure these things out and putting up our work in those places. On the right, you see our first point of okay. Before this, we worked with Hermes, the famous French label. So we produced for them for 3 seasons in a row. And then we also worked with Galeries Lafayette's own label. So this was we did a collaboration with them, with their designers. They came to Rangpur, worked with us, and then we produced pieces and sent them over. And it was a collaboration with Galeries Lafayette X Living Blue. And it was showcased in April 2016. And this is, many of you may have been to Paris. And this is a window outside the Galeries Lafayette, one of the Galeries Lafayette Usman shopping malls. It was in the window. It was a great moment to see rural workmanship from Bangladesh, from northern Bangladesh, right in the heart of capital of fashion, right, and craftsmanship. It was amazing to see. On the left is it's a recent one. It's Louis V. It's one of the luxury brands owned by Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy. So we work with them. We produce scarves for them that they're sold in their flagship store in Avenue Montaigne and online. And the second one was done right before COVID hit. So I'm not sure. I think after COVID is over, probably they will sell it, the second collection. And so during the second collection, we also produced a couple of pieces. It's one of them that was showcased by them for the Paris Fashion Week Men's 2020. It was last year, mid last year. So this, I mean, it's how you look at it, right? For some people, it may be important to reach the things to Paris. If you are talking about fashion, you want to reach there. And it may not be necessary for some people to actually reach there. You can have your own small way of doing things, a different way of doing things, not small, different way of doing things. But what I feel is that you always be specific on the quality, on not trying to compromise on it. And in that way, you have to actually explore a bit more and get the prices. So it's always good to keep looking for these things. How we got Louis was interesting. We did not get them on the street or like on a show. They came and they liked us. That's not how it happened with Louis. How it happened with them was they opened up they have this craft craft award started by their creative director Jonathan Anderson in 2016. We applied for it, and then after a few months, 7-8 months, I think, we got a mail. I mean, it was not actually when we applied, because we applied to things like that. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it does not work, right? It was not really in my head. And then we got a mail before the application deadline was, before the results were out, that the design team wants to talk to us. So we sent to the foundation, but the design team saw these collections coming over to them, and they wanted to work with us. So, and then after a couple of months, the results were out, and one of our artisan, which we promoted from Living Blue, she was in the list of 26, a final list of 26 artisans who got felicitations from a global list of almost 4,000 craft work. It's not just fabrics or textiles. It's like wood carving and many other things. I think that time, first time, a German wood carver won the competition, and our artisan became one of the 26. So that's how we got Loewe. We worked with the design team for a year. I had to go there, speak to the designers, understand what they're looking for, come back, go back to our artisans, and bridge the two worlds and get something out. And finally, we worked with Loewe after a year of went through of lots of sampling done. What happens when you work with good designers, great design companies, brands, is that you up your quality. You know what they would challenge you. Otherwise, it's hard where the qualities are heading, right? I mean, living in your own circle will not get you much out. So when you work with these people, like when we work with the Japanese buyers, it's very hard, but they challenge you to the last mile. But then if you can deliver it, these customers will be loyal to you. So that's what very important. So getting the things in fine quality. Yeah, so possibilities are there. Depends how you look at your fashion, your designs, where you want to go. But a lot of things are possible. Thank you very much. So you see, I was telling you in one of the steps that you need to really work with the fabric while you are dyeing. So she's constantly moving it, squeezing it so that in every inch, every detail, the dye has to enter. 10-15 minutes, you can't stop. You can't just keep it still. You need to constantly move the fabric around. And now she's flapping. So this is airing. Flapping is done. So it was green when she took it out. As she's flapping it, she's putting it air into it, oxidizing it, the oxidization part, the airing part. I need to really, as I said, every part is meticulous. And so you need to do it well so that it's aired well and it dries out well and uniformity is there. They have been dyeing for 10 years, so you can trust them. So it's done in slow motion. I spoke about the shirt I was wearing yesterday. So today I will again have a word about it. So what I'm wearing today, I got it from H&M first. I wore it for many years, the denim one. Then instead of throwing it out, I sent it to Living Blue to these dyers to over dye them so that I can keep wearing them, but making it conscious in my own way. And then on the collars, I worked with the Katha stitches. So it's like recoding, something that personally I'm trying to do. I did not do anything other than what I'm wearing, but it's something very interesting for me. It's like a soul thing to work, recoding old stuff, redesigning it, so making it look different, but for something that was old and precious maybe to me. Yeah, thank you.
How does the scoring of the fabric work?
And the scouring is when you buy fabric from the mill, from the market, it has starch on it. It may have different, dusts on it, irregularities on it, different things. Many people are touching them, so you need to really wash those starches, those dusts off the fabric, and you can do it with regular soap. That's what we did. Not hard detergents, not something that has what do you call it? We call it khar in English. For example, what's khar in English? Please.
Khar is I don't know.
Anyways, I'll write it when I remember it. So just you have to wash it.
I think the way they say it is hard water and soft water.
Yeah, something like that.
Kind of that.
So you need to wash off the dust and the starch. Here the fabric fast and regularly will the different speed of oxygen reach the fabric, create permanent irregular. Yeah, it can be. Yeah, it's possible. But I mean, don't always think that your earring is wrong. Sometimes when you work with handloom fabric, even the weaving is irregular. So maybe fabric from the very beginning is irregular. So when you dye it and take it out, it may look different. And I know once I was trying to work with this person, or they were trying to work with us in Living Blue. They came and they were not really happy to see how natural handloom fabrics look differently. And I mean, as I said, those people are not your customers or your designers. They don't understand handloom. They want H&M everywhere. So that's not working, right? So that's the loom part. But what you asked, yes, you do it well. You do it for a bit of a time. Give it a time. Give it the air, and then after you keep on doing few pieces. You will know what's your time, because it also depends where you are, your weather that point. Do you need to do for 7 minutes or you need to do for 4 minutes, and how you have dyed. So yes, but keep on doing until you are sure that enough oxygen has reached the fabric.
Today we will go through how I have been working as a designer. Here's a little bit of the overview of how we are going to go about the presentation. First, a little bit of the historic background of how I came to work and practice with this particular embroidery group, and how I established my business philosophies and my product ranges around it. We'll talk a bit about the techniques, the impact that I try and create whatever small bits, and how we are planning to go into the future with the ideas. And then we'll have the question and answer session as usual. Dhaka. They are refugees. Their legal status is still as refugees. They started to migrate like from the 1930s up to 1947, 50s. This Bihari community actually migrated from the state of Bihar in India because at the partition of when we were partitioned from the India, there was East Pakistan and West Pakistan. So the Bihari community, being a majority of Muslim people, they thought they would come to Pakistan rather than being a part of Hindu majority based country. So they came to East India then, now it's Bangladesh, with the hope that at some point they will be taken to Pakistan, the main Pakistan land. Before 1971, they thought they were a part of East Pakistan, and that's how they came in hundreds. At that time, they came in hundreds of thousands. I think the present current number is almost 300,000 Biharis live in Bangladesh in different refugee camps. Along with Dhaka, there are some pockets within the country in other districts. But they were in thousands in numbers when they first came. So after 1971, when Bangladesh was not a part of Pakistan anymore, this particular group of people, they had lost all of a sudden the aspiration of becoming Bengalis, because they never wanted to become Bengalis. They wanted to become a part of Pakistan. So with this newly formed nation, there was a treaty between Pakistan and Bangladesh at that time that this particular group of people would be relocated to Pakistan at some point, but which partially took place in the following years after the 1971 War of Liberation. But after that, the repatriation totally stopped, and this community became neither Pakistanis nor Bangladeshis nor Indians. So they are kind of in a stateless situation at the moment up until 2008. In 2008, the Bangladesh Supreme Court, actually considering the inhuman situation they were in, they were granted Bangladeshi citizenship. But due to the complicated socio-political situation this particular community was in, they're not very well accepted within the social structure of Bengalis. Because during the 1971 war, this particular community was against against Bangladesh being separated from Pakistan. So since then, there has been a lot of conflicts and a lot of frictions between the communities. But the present situation is that they are living in this country for the last 3, 4, 5 generations even, and living in, as you can see, in a very inhumane condition where the houses are built like one on top of the other. And originally it was designed for probably a fraction of the people that they are living now. So the living conditions, I'll go into that a little bit more into details. So I first started to know about this community when in my teens, I wanted to be a designer, and how I loved embroidery. So I thought of this, let me go and check out the Bihari community that are living in Muhammadpur and Mirpur. These are the main 2 sections where this particular community live. So these areas are called Geneva Camps. And the Geneva Camp areas, you can see lots of people doing embroidery. They're into very many different type of crafts. They speak the language of Urdu, which is not Bengali. It's Urdu, and the written form is, the text is Arabic. So they still prefer to speak in that language amongst themselves. Here you can see in this photograph the condition of Pakistani families living in Bangladesh in this camp. Here we are looking at this photo of one typical room where a typical family would be living, maybe of 8 or 10 members. And I'm also reading along with, describing what's going on the screen. The education system is a traditional madrasa where they're taught mostly in Arabic, and the population, amongst the population, there's only 5% people who finish their primary schooling even. So the level of education is really, really low. So in these Geneva camps, the living conditions are very poor and very poor sanitation. Maybe there's one bathroom that is shared by 8 or 10 families. There's no concept of personal space, as you can see from this photo here. So I thought of working with this immensely talented group of people, and that's how I got motivated. And later on, I've been working with them for the last 20 years almost, and I thought, of fashioning some kind of studio where I can easily work with this particular embroidery group. So the current situation with this, their political situation is, even though they are registered, some of them as Bangladeshis, and they have got the voter cards, but interestingly enough, they cannot have a passport, a Bangladeshi passport, because with a permanent address of showing in a refugee camp, you cannot possibly apply for a citizenship. So it's a mixed situation that is going on, and the only way forward for them is to educate themselves and economic independence, and then so that they can move out of the harsh conditions of living in a refugee camp. So the crafts that the Biharis bring with them, as we've seen in the Mirpur weaving that Saifur Bhai mentioned yesterday, they are mostly Biharis. There's this Kachobi, Zardozi, and other embroidery groups. They are very much involved in block printing, and block carving even is done a lot by a lot of Biharis. They're in dyeing, and they have got a wonderful tradition of very rich culinary art, because they like to eat. So, in Muhammadpur and Mirpur, we've got lots of biryani places and lots of kebab makers. So I thought of working with the embroiderers. Here we are seeing that a bit of the Mirpur loom weavers. One of the photographs of a dress that I made from my Bihari block printer, who printed the fabric, and then we made this beautiful dress, 6-7 yards of fabric. Off it started again. This is the collection that I did from last summer, and here some natural dyed textiles I've used and some embroideries. So I'll talk a little bit about what I do as a designer using this embroidery techniques. So here, this is a photographs of the collections that I did. We can see some of the Zardozi work, some machine embroidery, and from various collections. The way I designed my practice is it's based on slow fashion philosophies. It's a social enterprise that cares about the people who work with me and around me, creating value-added high craftsmanship, employing the local artisanal crafts, using slow processes, using handmade techniques, encouraging local production and consumption, and the economic and social impact that I want to create. So this is how a typical design would be developed. We I get most of my inspirations from looking at old textiles or fabric fragments that I come across from my travels or from museums. And then I develop my ideas around them. Then we do embroidery samples using one or two very senior master craftsmen that work with me. So we experiment with different type of stitches and different type of techniques and materials, and then we finalize a piece that we want to continue with. This is again images from my previous collections. We do photo shoots and ad campaigns for promoting the product lines. This is how the design process goes, that we get the mood boards. You know, I'm sure everybody's familiar with creating mood boards, finding inspirations, and then creating samples, and then finalizing the sample and application of that in the final product. The design studio, the kind of social impacts that we want to create is in this community, as I've spoken about, the role of men is very dominant and prominent. So here in the studio, I try and employ some girls also from the Bihari community. And even though they are not the major embroiderers, but they can do assistance related to embroidery and do needlework and other work around the studio. The way the studio is set up, working with the working with the embroiderers is they like to work very flexibly, like there's no 9 to 5 timing that is there for the embroiderers. So they work in their own pace, in their own time, and I kind of ensure that I pay them fairly and I pay them according to what they want to get paid. So there has to be a sweet point where it's okay for me and for them also. As I said, their working hours is not set, and then since they get to work with a master craftsman, their training and learning is happening at the same time as they're working with the master craftsman. The social impact that I'll continue talking about it. We practice slow handmade processes. We are continuing the traditional livelihood and crafts practices from the community. We're continuing the cultural heritage and occupation. The way I market my products is I participate in very high-end fair kind of exhibitions, like their fairs with other designers and boutiques in Bangladesh. And then I keep my product in a multi-brand store where I share this space with some other designers. And I'm working on an online shop since, you know, I've been thinking about doing this for some time, but now I think with Corona and everything, COVID-19, everybody will be more inclined to shop online. So, you know, we're seriously giving this get-go. Previously, in the past, I will share my experience of working with a little bit of collaboration work that I did with one ethical fashion brand called Bachara, here written as Bakara. It's a Bengali word meaning children. So this beautiful lady here wearing one of my embroidered dresses is Amanda Fish Ryan now. She's the designer and she's the one who came up with the idea. She came to Bangladesh with working for Jago Foundation, who's one of the Jago Foundation is one of the pioneering NGOs who work with street children. So Amanda came as a volunteer and she came up with the idea of setting up a sewing lab where the mothers of the children could work. And then we eventually came across, met one another through a third friend. And she was really intrigued by the embroidery I was doing. So she decided to do one line of product with me. So I'll share some of the images with this brand. Now, this is from like 7-8 years ago. They're in the process of relaunching the brand. I still work as their consultant from Bangladesh for production and product development. This is their campaign, and the embroideries are done, designed by me and done at the workshop, done at my studio. So some more Bachara designs here. So throughout my career, I was always involved with design education. I started the first master's in fashion design program in the Shantamariam University. Some of the participants know me from there. Some of you have been my students also, luckily. So I feel super privileged to be able to interact with young designers, with creative people. I take a lot of interest in influencing young designers to work with sustainable design philosophies. I love networking with people who come from similar mindset. There's an internship facility at the studio where design students who are about to graduate can come and do like a 3-month or a 6-month internship with us. And we design the internship according to their interest and requirement for their program. We constantly doing practice-based research on traditional crafts of hand embroidery, always trying to come up with old stitches that are no more done. We are keeping a thorough filing and record keeping of this kind of embroidery, because many a times these are very expensive to produce and may not be viable to be produced on a commercial basis. But since it's my passion and interest, I keep a library of good samples of embroidery. For the future, for the studio, we have certain problems working in Dhaka because the supply chain is broken, you can say, because we are heavily dependent on materials to work with, starting with a good quality silk to embroidery supplies like yarns, threads, beads and sequins. Everything we have to depend on India or on China. Nothing is produced in Bangladesh. So the supply is also not very regular. So once I create some samples using a particular material, maybe 3-4 months later, I won't be able to find that same product or same trimmings. So we are still in the process of finding out how we can create a circular supply chain where we can work with local weavers maybe to create the fabrics and use with yarns that are produced in Bangladesh, and then the final designs are made here and the product is finally made and maybe used here or anywhere else in the world. Through some campaigning, we are encouraging entrepreneurs to give local designers more opportunities and more work with local crafts material, and encourage the designers also to work with local crafts. We want to create exhibitions and campaigns and sales experiences where people can get to see more and more products made in Bangladesh, because in Bangladesh we have a lot of problem of products from neighboring countries which are not legally imported in Bangladesh. They're smuggled in Bangladeshi market and they're sold very cheap. So which is putting the local fashion industry in a lot of pressure, because we are in an unfair competition with the big manufacturers like India and Pakistan. So here to make the local industry survive, we have to take care of a lot of these issues. So I try and participate in this kind of events and campaigns to stop the illegality within the industry and encourage the production of local stuff. For the future, I have a couple of projects in hand. I'm sort of working on a series of workshops for designers and encourage the making of hand, as you've seen in the presentation, that there's a strong tradition of hand embroidery and needlework in Bangladesh that is only in the rural areas. People living in the cities and suburbs, they have got no concept of any hand stitching or embroidery. So in the urban areas, like my nephews and nieces, they don't know anything to do about embroidery or stitching. So to bring back the tradition of knowing hand sewing and stitching, I want to create a series of, I want to arrange a series of workshops after this COVID-19 lockdown is over, and just to encourage people to go back to their creativity, tap into the handmade embroidery things, so that they have better appreciation of the joy of making things from hand. So these are the two things that I have in working and development stage for the future that I have planned.
The artisans that you're working with, are they trained, or are they, did they acquire the craft while growing up? Also wanted to know if you have your own workshop with the artisans.
Yes, I do have my own workshop, and they are actually trained by their ustads or their superiors. So it is again done by the traditional, apprentice master sort of a setup. So they would be typically starting at the age of maybe 7, 8, 9, 10. As I went a lot into my yesterday's presentation, how the training goes for this particular embroidery. They start very young, and then by the time they're 20, 25, they are almost very fluent in most of the techniques and stitches done in that particular embroidery technique. So yes.
I'm interested to also hear your view about, of course, child labor is always a subject that we discuss. Mm-hmm. And what is your position towards child labor, and how do these children, when they start learning the craft, do they also go to school, and what is their social background and the understanding in the family towards it?
Yeah, the way I look at it, in every traditional crafts, we as a modern society, I believe we need to make sure that the child goes to school. He is not actually out of the school and practicing his craft. He is actually doing the school and practicing the craft, because since it's very much influenced by the community, and it's only trained within the community, there's no scope for anybody else to continue the legacy of the work. So for them to continue with their legacy, and at the end of the day, if some of them prefer to work as educated embroiderers, take the embroidery trade forward. Now with many Jamdani weavers, we are seeing that they are very much fluent with their smartphones and their social media. They have their own Facebook pages, and they're doing direct selling to all the Dhaka ladies. So this actually can only take them forward and help them to make more money if they're educated and well conversed within their community and well conversed within their traditional craft. So I guess along with their, there's no option of not going to school. They need to have basic high school education, if not further. But if somebody, they should be given the choice either to become an educated craftsman or an educated whatever they want to be. So like every other citizen in the country. So I think that's my take on the whole idea of, you know, child labor within the, and it's not necessarily have to be like 5-6 hours of work for a child. It can be like that 3-4 hour work, as long as they're comfortable doing it and enjoying to do it. And then if they want to proceed working as an embroiderer, helping their brothers and fathers within their traditional trade and continuing their schools also, that's fine. That's another skill learned for them. And they have more options of, you know, what they want to become as an adult. So because not everybody has the option of becoming an embroiderer, they need to understand this, that except for them, I cannot ask anybody from the society, go to the Bihari camp and learn how to be an embroiderer. It doesn't work that way. So it only can come from within the community of about the awareness of educating themselves and just having more options in life.
Thank you very
Saifur,
much.
you
I
have
just want to
anything to add in that?
in this subject about the child labor. So in case of Jamdani, or in case of any crafts, it is a family-oriented thing. So if a son can't sit with his father or learn from his mother, he cannot continue the crafts in future. So the legacy cannot be continued or carried on. So from the very early age, they have to learn it. And in case of weaving, in Jamdani villages, National Crafts Council set up a school, and all childs are not working with their father or a brother or anybody, but there are few children, they come from different families. So we told them, told to the main weaver to give them a time to go to the school, at least a time, 3 to 4 hours, so that they can go to the school and learn at least basic education. So we set up a school a few years back, and we are also working the same in the Jamdani villages with the Jamdani weavers.
Do it and don't do it. It is not the question of this. You have to educate it, and then you have to go to your forefathers' profession. Things is that awareness and everything. Every artisans have a dream that his children have, if they get the opportunity and go to the school. But we are not ensuring all the artisans community where they live, the school tuition fee is free. The full free, it is affordable things. You know, every artisans have a priority. The priority of food, priority of, health, take care of health, take care of home, and take care of borrow the money from the Mahajan. Mahajan means top leader. So they have a children, and then it is not, they have stubborn and they don't like education. That's why they're not bring their children to the school. It is not like this. And why, you know, we are talking about this is the age, then that age you should have a play and music and explore your mind with the nature in the world, and then take a formal education. The black our government make a lot of primary education without any, tuition fee. And some of the weavers, they feel in the child have to go to the school and then come back and then sit on the loom, the side by his father or brother. But Mahajan have a time schedule. It is started from the morning, and then in between there's the closing, and after that again start the work, and then before the sunset the work is completed. It is not like this, and then one man cannot make a Jamdani weaving himself. It's required two. If the child is Sagreb, going to be Sagreb, then masters cannot wait for him, and then loom cannot close. So that is it is not emotional things. It is a reality of people's poverty, and then what they do and what they don't know. There's the social condition, economical condition, so many things surrounding. It is not like they don't have aware, they don't like education. It's not like that. Other things. Most of the weavers now they understand how to, digitalize their promotion through the smartphone. The smartphone, not a education. It is not a primary education. It is not a degree education. It is some kind of technology know-how, how to handle that. And you review so many weavers, those are very much smart and then communicating. You ask them, do you go to school or you pass the primary or high school or something? They says no. So that is not the things. Things is that Crafts Council also try to make one school from their community based. I think Saifur knows about it. And then we are trying to do that. And then some of the craft, all the master craftsmen says when this is I don't know if Saifur told it or not, and in between I am not there. This is the unique Jamdani is a product behind that. It is a technique. This technique is a memorized technique. All the textile designers, they know that thread have a and B. When all the A is down, then B is the up, because the lifting of the shaft. In between the interlacing, extra thread is in. But how many how many thread after thread you are interlacing, supplementary weft is gone, but you enter. That is a calculation. That calculation, sometimes the repeat comes 100 lines, 200 lines. So how they memorize the 200 lines arithmetic in their mind, but they are not educated. So that means education is something different. But we are talking about the child labor. It is not a labor, it is an apprenticeship. It is a master and master's discipline. So but that's why we cannot identify or focus or make it that way. The Jamdani weaving should stop the child labor, otherwise it is forbidden, or it is not like this. You have to think about the condition, how to transfer the technological senses and arithmetics to master and then assistance. It is and then they says, I talk a lot of things because I worked with the first Jamdani national exhibition I did 1981. And then it is a national level. Recently, Saifur, I think, mentions that the muslin, thickness of the Jamdani, which is 200 to 300 counts, and then all the old design, they are not have seen anymore. And then their forefather, 150 to 200 years before they made it. And then this today, 2020 Jamdani weavers make it possible, and then they did it. It is a surprise situation. Nobody believe it. How they memorize their forefathers' work. But it is not a very easy thing. We have some of the picture we have, some of the fabric also, antique fabric, we give it to them, and then drawings. But with the drawings, there's no graphs. They calculate it, and then we make all the samples. And Jamdani, high count Jamdani weaving is toughest things in the world, because 6 inches when they weave, it takes 1.5 days, only 6 inches to 4 inches. And then we make all the samples. So it's not like this that in the computer we make a drawing and then put it and then give it to someone else and then he made it. It is because it is a memorized art. No jala, no jacquard, no dobby, no, functional or technical support. The Jamdani weavers, it is a 2-shaft loom and behave like 100 shaft or more than 100 shaft loom. It is very interesting. I think I request all of you, the friends and then professor itself, you come to Bangladesh and visit our master weavers village and then sit with them, see, and then why it is required to understand from the, young age, and then they mature their knowledge day after day. I'm sorry to waiting for all of you, but it is, I have seen, and then other things also I have to share. The Jamdani comes because of all the Mughals and Europeans. They're fond of white cotton textile that is called muslin. Then muslin have the basic rules of Jamdani or basic uniqueness of Jamdani, that is the transparency. They absorb the light, they transfer the light. The motif is not, motif is opaque because always warp and weft thread, finest ground. And then motif thread, it is a 4 times, more thickness than warp and weft thread. That's why all the lights always go through the Jamdani's fabric's body. And then most of the good quality and then highest quality and then antique quality Jamdani 200 years before, 150 years before I studied, all are white. So these days, because of we always designers make something else and then says it is a new thing, it is a new thing, and we interact the colors with the Jamdani. When the color comes to Jamdani, then the transparency gone. It is main fragrance, essence is transparency of lights. So white and white, without white and white, the light cannot pass. Other things is that last 30, 40 or 40 years, half silk Jamdani, that means warp is silk, weft is cotton. It is absolutely, long before that they make the Jamdani all cotton, warp and weft, both is the cotton. So that is also one disaster have done, because 200 years before the Jamdani I saw in my eye, it is, you can see not a single thread is broken. But 10 years before, lost a lot of our women's ladies, those are, using Jamdani, it is a clear because warp and weft strength is not same. There's the 2 kind of material. So that is also, we are the designers do something wrong with them. And then that is also a very, something, I don't know what we can proceed.